Good morning, Erin. It's Rhonda. We have 4 members on and we need 5 to start the meeting, so I'll let you know when we have a 5th person.
Hi, good morning, it's Erin.
Morning, Erin. We now have a quorum. Dave Wessel just joined, so whenever you want to get started.
Sorry, Rhonda, I couldn't catch that. It sounded a little garbly.
Sorry. We do have 5 members in attendance at this time. If you wanted to get started, we are
Okay. Why don't we give folks just another minute or so, and then we can go ahead and get started. So I think I just heard one person just chime in, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we now have 6 members.
We'll give them till 10:02. It's 10:01 on my clock, so another few seconds, just in case anybody's just trying to log in.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, 10:02. So let's call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday, January 7th. Welcome to the Mountain Line Transit Advisory Council meeting, Transit Advisory Committee meeting. I'm going to pass it over to Rhonda to do roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the TAC. Coconino County, Lucinda Andriani. She's expected, but not on the line yet. Coconino County Citizen Representative Julianne Thomas.
Present.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Jeff Bowman.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. City of Flagstaff Citizen Representative Kevin Parks.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Metro Plan, Dave Wessel.
Good morning. I'm here.
And we also have Jeff Mileback on the line as well. NAU, Aaron Stom.
Here.
NAU students, Clarice Green and Antonio Gilbert are not present and will join. Please, Kurt Skull.
Good morning. I'm here.
Morning, thank you. And Economic Development Representative Gail Jackson is excused. And that's, we have our attorney, Mitesh Patel, on the line. Mitesh, good morning.
Good morning. Happy to join you today.
And we have members of the staff in the room and on Zoom. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Next on our agenda is our safety minute with Sam Short.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Transit Advisory Committee. The winter season brings cold temperatures and often severe weather conditions that create many hazards for individuals working in these conditions. Even if you work indoors, winter weather still poses many hazards for you, such as driving into work in bad weather. It is important to recognize and address the hazards winter brings with it. One of the main issues winter poses in many parts of the country is poor driving conditions, especially in Flagstaff. According to the Department of Transportation, winter weather conditions are responsible for over 192,000 injuries and 2,200 deaths each year on the road. Outside injury and loss of life, winter weather conditions are responsible for millions of dollars in property damage incidents. The hazards created by winter weather make it hard for even the most experienced drivers to operate a vehicle safely. Some things you can do to avoid becoming a winter driving statistic are: monitor weather for any upcoming storms or icy conditions and plan your travel around those conditions. Do not put yourself in a situation where you are stuck on the roadside. Do not drive in wintry conditions if possible. Eliminate driving eliminates your chances of being in an incident. Be a defensive driver. Stay clear of other drivers and maintain a larger than normal distance from other vehicles in case you need to brake or turn to avoid an accident. Slow down. Winter weather conditions necessitate having to reduce your speed. Reducing your speed will give you more time to react, as well as reducing your chances of losing control of your vehicle. Ensure your tires have the proper amount of tread on them. Check your tires before winter arrives and change them if necessary. Let's all do our part to avoid becoming a winter driving statistic. Welcome to the January Transit Advisory Committee meeting.
Thank you, Sam. That was great. And hopefully we do get some snow. Next on the agenda is approval of the TAC minutes from the December 3rd meeting. As usual, I'm going to do my best. If folks can use the raise hand functionality, I will do my best to look for those, call on people, and then just remember to lower your hand after you've had an opportunity to speak. So first, if there's any questions or comments on those meeting minutes. And I will tell you, I'm on a different device than I normally am, so I'm hoping I can see the raise hand. If you've raised your hand and I haven't called on you, let me know. If
Madam
there
Chair,
are
this
no
is David.
questions. Oh. Hi,
Yeah, this is
David.
David Wessel. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I do have, I think it's Lucinda. Lucinda's got a thumbs up. Thank you, Lucinda. That helps, so I can see some things. So thanks, Dave. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Can I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Ooh, I think that was Lucinda. All those approved, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing no oppositions, the minutes are so approved. Moving into our business agenda, the first item, consent item, consideration for the consent agreement with Carter Oil Company Incorporated. Jim Wagner.
Madam Chair, the items on the consent agenda are usually not reviewed.
Oh, that's right. That's just. Yeah, thank you, Heather. I appreciate that. So that's information that we get if there's any questions anybody has on there, but I don't think there's anything for us to review on that. So the next item is review of the FY21 meeting dates and approve the FY22 meeting dates. Rhonda.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. This is kind of a standard item in January that we take a look at the meeting dates coming up for the rest of this fiscal year, and then look at the new dates for next fiscal year. So looking at those, if you see anything that might be a conflict for you or your agency, please let us know. We aren't really changing anything, still having a recess in July and no TAC meetings when we have joint meetings in May and October. However, there is a proposed change in FY22, 2022 to not hold December meetings. So as long as the board is okay with that, then that should move forward. Any questions?
Any questions for Rhonda? I am not seeing any hands, Rhonda.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is consider adoption of Title VI program. Kate?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the TAC. This is a adoption of our Title VI program. We do this every 3 years per the requirements of FTA. We've made some minor changes this year, but I'll go ahead and go through the requirements and then what we have changed since the last time we did our Title VI plan. So we adopted our Title VI in 2009, 12, 15, and 18. And again, it's updated every 3 years. We do have to get it approved by FTA, and we are following their requirements for what needs to be included in that plan. I do want to point out that this is minimum requirements for a Title VI plan. We can and we do exceed these for many projects in terms of the amount of public outreach that we do or other pieces. But since it is the setting the bar of the minimum requirements for FTA, it is the thing that we get audited on. And so there's a balance of doing well and also making sure that we aren't going to set the bar so high that if we fail to meet it, we have findings with FTA. And I guess I should explain for a moment what Title VI is. Title VI is a civil rights policy and program. So non-discrimination items, making sure that we're inclusive of all races, ethnic origins, etc. So the components that are required are the notice to the public, how people can file complaints, a list of the complaints that Mountain Line has received since the last update, our public participation plan. LEP is the limited English proficiency, so how we communicate with people who don't speak English. We need to share with FTA the racial breakdown of our non-elected, non-appointed committees. So committees like a 5-year plan update committee, where Mountain Line is selecting that membership. We need to report the racial breakdown voluntarily from those members. There's a section on oversight of subrecipients, which we don't have any, so we just simply say that. They also ask us to explain how we will do Title VI in the siting of our facilities and planning, and then how we will think about Title VI standards in terms of the services that we're providing. So the changes that we've made since 2018 are mostly clerical, updates to website links, etc. We've rebranded the document from NAPTA to Mountain Line. We've moved some of the responsibilities of the Title VI officer over to the Deputy General Manager position, my position, where it used to be in the admin director role, which no longer exists. We also did add a new section on the construction of facilities. We hadn't had any facilities planned for quite some time. So just simply stated that in the plan, and now with the DCC and potential campus bus storage facility, we have included a section on Title VI for the siting and construction of those facilities. And then we made minor changes to the service standards to align with our latest plan. So for example, the transit guidelines document talks about what types of bus stop amenities should be in place in certain locations. And so we realigned what used to be in the plan to what the transit guideline says. So our next steps really are just to approve this action and have the board sign a resolution. We have included in the scope of the 5-year plan update for someone to do a more holistic look at the way we review equity in our service planning. Some of those changes might be to the Title VI plan, but some might be other policies outside of the Title VI plan as well. And depending on what comes out of the 5-year plan, we may do another update sooner than 2024. What year is it? Than 2024, but not later. And that should be February 2024. Sorry, I put this year's date, but it's 3 years from now. So when we come back is up in the air, depending on what comes out of the 5-year plan. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Kate? I'm not seeing any hands, Kate. And again, folks, let me know if I'm missing something.
Nope. Thank you.
So thanks, Kate. Next item is consider adoption of the zero emissions bus ZEB transition plan. Susie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Busy Collins, Transit Planner. And I'm coming back at you talking about the zero emissions bus transition plan. Today, I will summarize phase 1 and how the decision was made to continue into phase 2. And I will highlight key points of phase 2. And so overall, the ZEB plan, it's two-phased. So March to June, we examined how fleet technologies might impact service provision, emissions, and cost. And with that information, the board of directors approved battery electric buses on a policy level. And for the last 6 months, we have been working on a detailed implementation plan to really guide Mountain Line in how to implement electric buses, but not fully committing to electric buses. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail as we go through this presentation. And so phase 1 compared battery electric buses and fuel cell electric buses with our current hybrid electric buses. And there were some combinations, as you might see in the reports, looking at battery electric en route versus depot charge, a combination of battery and fuel cell electric. But overall, these were the 3 technologies that we're looking at. And this ZEB plan was perfectly timed to thoughtfully align capital investment with our goals. And so what you're seeing here is our fleet replacement schedule. This is our fixed route fleet of 29 buses. We have a mix of 35-foot and 60-foot buses. And this is just according to useful life when they're set to be replaced. And so it was really great time to look at ZEB before we jump into our replacement. And then in addition to our buses, we also had a variety of facility plans and the DCC construction that could use direction and integration of electrification into those plans to make sure that we're fully looking at how electrification might affect our future facilities, our future operation, and facilities at the DCC. So it was just a really great time to conduct the ZEB plan. And there were some other plans too, of the CASPAR master plan, looking at CASPAR Drive headquarters here, also the strategic investment plan and the joint campus bus storage plan. And there were also community goals and understanding what Mountain Line's role in achieving those community goals were. So we have the climate action and adaptation plan, a regional plan by MetroPlan and Flagstaff, and also NAU's climate and sustainability action plans. And then there's also the goals of Mountain Line's strategic plan, and also honoring voter intent of 2008 to adopt green technologies. And the results of phase 1 ZEB plan showed that battery electric buses had the lowest emissions compared with the other technologies. So you can see hybrid currently has the highest. It's a hybrid diesel bus, but fuel cell was also pretty high, and this takes into account our topography, where fuel cells were coming from. They had to be trucked in from Las Vegas. That's the closest current location that charges fuel cells, and we would need to truck those in. So that's a little counterintuitive to the zero emissions goal. And just to put this in perspective, the difference between hybrid buses and battery electric buses was removing at full transition, when all 29 of our buses were battery electric, removing 282 cars from the road every year. So year after year, 282 cars are off the road, which is good. But yeah, I definitely get lost in some of these GHG greenhouse gas emission tons. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what we're talking about here for emissions. And also in phase 1, we looked at costs. And so here's a comparison between the various fleet technologies. You can see hybrid electric is lowest. So we're currently, and this is over the 12 years of fleet replacement. So looking at our current costs of about 34 million total, And that's broken into the buses themselves, the blue, the largest amount. And then there's fuel. So it's diesel for our hybrid buses, and then electricity for battery electric, and then those fuel cells for the fuel cell buses. And then there's maintenance. So keeping the buses in a state of good repair and costs associated with that. And then there's infrastructure. And the purple infrastructure box would be one-time costs to support those fleet technologies. And so you can see that battery electric buses had the lowest incremental cost at 19 million over the current hybrid bus, for a total of 53.6 million over 12 years. And you can see those costs broken out here. And beyond the 2 grant-funded buses that were awarded with the DCC construction grant, all of these costs are unfunded according to our current financial plan and our current transit tax revenue. But Mountain Line does believe that we can offset these costs with grants and partnerships. And if we can fully realize all grants, all partnerships, and I'll go into that in more detail a little bit later, that we do anticipate having similar costs to the current hybrid electric. There's quite a few grants out there. There's a lot of opportunities for partnerships, and I'll touch on that. So it's hopeful, but we have hope. But currently unfunded and unrealized. And with these results showing that battery electric had the lowest emissions and the lowest incremental cost, the board of directors approved battery electric bus technologies on a policy level at the June board meeting. And with board approval, Mountain Line is able to plan for battery electric buses. And the ZEB plan is a roadmap on how to electrify our facilities, our fleet, all components. However, it is not a 100% commitment to battery electric buses, as it is currently unfunded, and implementation will be bus by bus, project by project. And I think maybe a question came up. I'd be happy to address that if you have a question right now or a comment.
I am not seeing hands. Anybody correct me if I'm wrong.
I had a quick question. This is Lucinda. Is the new, and I know it's early in the planning and not maybe even in the really full design phase, but in terms of the DCC, are you planning to do solar power? I mean, is there going to be any on-site generation?
Yeah, so we're planning to build to LEED standards, which will probably include solar panels on the roof, but the amount of electricity that we can generate will likely only energize the building. It won't be enough to do the buses.
Yeah, no, I would expect that, but I think, that's important. That to me, it's important that it's part of that package. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I'm just noting that down. That's a good comment. And so we do see with the 2 funded electric buses coming in 2022 to 2023, that we will be able to test electrification in real time and reevaluate future investments in battery electric. It's going to be a very helpful test of battery electric technology on our routes, on our system, with our staff. So it's an ideal time to invest in those first 2 buses and reevaluate at that time. And so now moving on to phase 2 of the plan, we do have the implementation plan and the phase 1 analysis available on our website. So if you go to our regular website, click About Us, and then Reports and Plans, it's about the 4th item down on the list. Very lengthy plans, I will warn you, but really full of incredible information. And so here it outlines a few of the components in the phase 2 implementation plan. And battery electric buses will touch almost every aspect of Mountain Line. So the plan is very comprehensive and covers the full spectrum of how to electrify our fleet and our facilities. And there are a couple items in here that I'd like to touch on. They're all very important, but just wanted to raise to the TAC and board's attention a few items. And the first one is rate structure and electrical costs. So here's a graph over the transition of our fleet. And so you can see with the first couple of buses in 2023, our rate structure and electric costs are pretty manageable. And then as we add more fleet, we will incur pretty significant peak demand charges. And that is indicated by the blue, purple, and orange portions of this graph. And so only 18% of the costs identified here is for energy, is for electricity. It's very minimal. And the rest of it, 81%, is for demand charges. And so part of this plan does identify working with APS and the Arizona Corporation Commission on any changes that are possible within the current rate structure. And through the analysis, we did identify that if we could reduce the peak demand charges by 30%, that our fuel costs will be equal to the current hybrid electric buses, which is, we averaged about $3 per gallon, over the fluctuating prices, but that's the figure we use. So if we could reduce just 30%, we could be very similar in those charges. So that's promising. And so in the phase 2 implementation plan, there were recommendations and examples provided by utility companies across the country of ways that utility companies have worked with the transit industry to make electrification a lot more reasonable and financially feasible. And here are some examples. So, we're looking at Hawaii, time of use revisions, demand charge reductions, Colorado, PG&E in California and beyond. So there's a host of examples and templates that we can draw from. And all of this has been provided to the statewide transportation electrification process that is currently going on. And so that has been the AZTE, I'll call it for short, has been going on for about 6 months, and that was initiated by the 3 utility companies in the state. And they will be making recommendations to the Arizona Corporation Commission on how to support electrification, not just transit, personal vehicles as well, the full spectrum of electrification. But all of these recommendations and information from the plan has been feeding into the AZTE. However, any rate structure changes does rely on the Arizona Corporation Commission to ultimately make that decision. So we have a lot of information available, and there's a lot of examples listed here on how we can support electrification specifically for transit. And so again, very hopeful on some possible rate structures coming down the pike. And that AZTE plan should be finalized this spring of 2021 and submitted to the ACC for consideration. The phase 2 ZEB plan also identified infrastructure partnerships that are in place across the country. And here's a list of some examples. So there's charging equipment owned and maintained by utility. There's rebates to cover infrastructure costs, technical assistance from utility. It's definitely a very confusing and involved process to electrify a facility, let alone a fleet, and understanding all of those moving pieces. And so again, all of this, we're definitely working closely with APS currently on downtown connection center electrification to support the first 2 buses and have a footprint for future full fleet electrification. But again, this all comes back to the ACC and to APS for ultimately making that decision to support electrification and rate structure or infrastructure partnerships. And this is my last slide, just showing charging infrastructure. It's something I rely on often as I am not fluent in electrification or electric grids. So there's a lot of components that go into actually electrifying the bus. So we have the end product, the yellow bus charging. We are looking at overhead pantograph chargers that could be actually affixed to a facility, an overhead structure, or arms as displayed here. And then that pantograph has a variety of components that allow the electricity to charge the bus in an appropriate way. And so this is just, the minimum components. With 8, we are looking at 8 pantograph chargers needed to support full fleet transition at the downtown connection center alone. And so these components will have multiples of majority of them. And so again, just working with AECOM on the DCC design to accommodate that full build out. What does that footprint look like? Working with APS to understand what kind of partnerships we have, and understanding, all of the various feed requirements. So there's a lot that goes into it, but we are working very closely with all of the partners to make sure that this is all addressed. And so there's the DCC, there's also the Caspar drive location that requires these charging components, and then the future campus bus storage facility that would require these components for Mountain Line alone. And I know the NAU is conducting their own zero emissions bus transition plan to understand what fleet technology they'll be using. But with that, I would love to answer any questions you may have. And we are looking for board approval at their meeting of this plan.
Thank you, Busy. That is a lot of information. You did a great job sharing it. Comments or questions for Busy? I am not seeing any hands, but again, folks, I'm on a different device. So if there's something that you wanted to say, feel free to jump in. Okay. Thank you, Busy. It really is. It's, like learning a whole new language, trying to understand all of that. So you've done a great job. Thank you very much.
I so appreciate that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so next is our progress reports. And just as a reminder to everybody, these are items that we don't review individually, but they're in your packet. So I'm going to give folks just a minute to if there's a question or a comment on any of the topics. The topics include no service changes for August 21, review the budget settings process, update on general consulting services contract, DCC project update, grant award notification. Oh, look at that. Any comments or questions on any of the information in the progress report? Okay, then I'm going to hand it over to Heather for a summary of current events.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Transit Advisory Committee. I have just a couple quick announcements on our current events. We're very excited to see that the County Health and Human Services has included transportation workers in phase 1B for the vaccine. And we're working now to determine what that preferred process will be so that we can communicate that out to staff. So we feel like that's much needed relief for our team members. Mountain Express did launch on December 26th. And I want to report that we are experiencing the same loss of ridership on that route as we have seen across our system, which is about a decrease of 70% in demand. We had a couple of days where the snow was fresh and there were chain requirements that brought us some peak load demands, unfortunately reducing our social distancing options, but our passengers have been great about using that back door for boarding and wearing their face coverings, so there was no overarching concerns there. We received word from the City of Flagstaff Planning and Zoning that the development Sky Cottages will be reviewed at City Council next week. While we have not heard back from Sky Cottages developer on our proposal to extend and fund Route 8 for 5 years, we understand that transit elements were not included in the proposal submitted to the city. So we will be attending that meeting, and we're hoping to make some remarks about historical conversations and the importance of trying to serve that development with transit options. A couple good news pieces. The federal budget was approved in late December, and we're currently waiting on appropriation announcements so that we can pursue our 2021 5307 funding, which is used in large part to fund future operations. And I know you have a progress report on grants, but I want to recognize Estella Hollander. We did receive an award of $7.3 million for our joint project that we applied for. Our partners, the City of Flagstaff, Metro Plan, and Estella worked quickly to write and submit a great application for what ADOT classified as first and last mile improvements, which is really improvements adjacent to transit for pedestrians, bikes, and other amenities. And then we also received via Metro Plan $273,000 from the Arizona Department of Transportation to complete our 5-year transit plan. And we want to express our gratitude to Metro Plan for that partnership. And again, thank Estella for her hard work in writing that application. And then I did just receive an update from the City of Flagstaff earlier this week, and it looks like the transit tax revenue is up by another $1.3 million over the next 5 years. So I'm happy to report at this time that Mountain Line has experienced zero loss in transit tax revenues since the onset of COVID, and in fact are right now projected to be over what those projected revenues were before COVID even started. And last, again, another congratulations to Estella Hollander. She has received a transportation demand certification, and she's one of the first in the country to actually receive that certification. So congratulations to Estella. Her hard work certainly shows, obviously, in our projects, and we're very proud to have her on our team. So with that, that's everything that I have as our current events, but I'd be happy to address any questions if somebody had something they were hoping I would speak to and haven't.
Thank you, Heather, and congratulations, Estella. That's amazing. Okay, any comments or questions for Heather? I am not hearing or seeing any hands.
This is Lucinda. I just wanted to add, yes, transportation is in the 1B category, but just know that the dynamics with the vaccination program coming from the feds and the state is literally moving on an hourly basis. And, we're seeing they've put a tremendous number of entities into the 1B phase, and which is going to pose some really significant challenges. And it looks like they're starting to further prioritize. And I think we'll see further prioritization. And the county is now publishing that document. There's a document that shows the staging online on the COVID website. So one of the things I would really encourage you to do is we're doing weekly updates to the board, and of course those presentations are public, and I would just encourage that someone at NAPTA is pulling that down, and then we're sharing it throughout our organization and with others as well. I don't know if you're getting it through any other mechanism, but I really encourage you to monitor that, because it's a moving target. And, so far we've in the short 2 weeks or so that the program has begun. Coconino County's been doing really well. We're second in terms of rate of administration of the vaccine. So we're really put our foot forward once again. But once we get to 1B, there are so many entities in that category. We're gonna really need a lot of partnership support to be able to administer. And then assuming we even get the vaccine, for example, we just got a delivery, unannounced delivery came. We got about 1,000 injections of the Pfizer vaccine. Which prior to that, we'd been told we would only receive the Moderna, which was fine. That's actually better. It's easier because it doesn't require the super refrigeration. So anyway, I just a note of caution that to not build expectations that may not be able to be kept by the feds in the state, in terms of delivery of vaccine and the administration. So anyway, we'll keep you posted, and we're all just going to have to work together and continue to be extremely diligent. Right now, Arizona is the worst place literally in the world. We not only the worst state in the United States, but we are the worst location in the world for our rate of infection. And so we have a very, very big problem here. And every measure that people can be taking to reduce the infection rate is extremely important right now. So thank you.
So
Thank you, Lucinda.
If I could, Chair Stum, I'd like to respond because we are actually following the county health website. We've been pulling that information. Michael Oxley's been great at giving us updates. So certainly we are deferring to the county and we're referring our employees directly to the county as the source for that information. We're happy to work with you, however, to support getting that done. And we appreciate the caution in your statement.
You bet. I would, one of the things that we're doing internally that I would encourage you to do as well, Heather, is to go through and prioritize your own team, and looking at who's at the greatest risk and who has the most contact with the public, and of course, who's most critical for direct service. And so we're going through that exercise internally, department by department, and then we'll be submitting all of that to HHS so they can prioritize within the county, who should get the vaccine first, and who, frankly, those of us that can work remotely, we're going to get it later, because we're not as exposed, and not necessarily in that direct service provision. So anyway, something to think about for your organization as well. Potentially that could be very helpful as people go through and prioritize. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Heather? Okay. Hearing none. The last item is just a reminder for folks that our next scheduled meeting is February 4th. And if there are no further comments or questions, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you.